YouTube? How's everyone doing? Jags to Riches, James Peters, thank you all so much for your time. Off-season update, guys. Just wanted to touch bases in the middle of Summer League right now. The Boston Celtics have completed their first two games. I was going to initially do a reaction after game one, just kind of go into, some of my takeaways or whatnot. But just because it was game one, I decided why not just, give it a couple days, wait till game two, and just kind of compare those two games and then actually start to see some standouts, because you'll notice that some of the people that struggled in game one played good game two and vice versa. But there are a few players that have continued to stand out over the course of the two games. So essentially, I just want to recap those first two games briefly and really more so spend time on some of the standouts and some of the key performers and performances that I've seen thus far. And then really use that to transition to another offseason and roster question, and that being is the front court. Something I have spoke on recently in a video. I think it was titled, Are the Missing Pieces Already on the Team? It was the video 2 videos ago, right before the Tatum season review. And in that video, I kind of went into like a summer league preview, touched on some of my players to watch for. And then I kind of started to touch on the front court. I really only went into depth on one player, mentioned a few others. So I figured I'd circle back to that and actually complete it. There has been, no real movement as far as on the free agent front. No KD trades, no real signings of note, especially with the Celtics. So really still surrounding us is rumors. And there's a few that I really think, are worth exploring. So before we get too deep into that, let's start right off the bat reviewing these first two Summer League games. And I'm actually going to go ahead and share my screen. So the first game, we would lose to the Miami Heat 78-88. And in that game, I think it's safe to say my key standout performers were pretty much the same as yours. And it seems like a consensus across the board. And that was J.D. Davison and Mafidu Cavangelian. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing. I thought that in the game one takeaways, those were two of the standout performers, as well as Matt Ryan off the bench. And obviously we'll spend more time with him. But J.D. Davison, I really have liked what I've seen from him. He struggled a lot more in game two and the turnovers in game two. But in game one, as you see, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, only 1 turnover. And it was some of the defensive plays. He had 3 blocks, 2 steals. I also like the fact that he's 2 for 5 from 3. And then Cavangeli, he has been, to me, and he was one of my players to watch for. I think he has probably, right there with Matt Ryan, been our best player so far in this summer league, especially when you're talking a consistency. In that opening game, 24 minutes, he was 5 for 7 from the field, 1 for 2 from the 3. I like that. He's actually hit 3-pointer in each game, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and he just seems to make an impact. He's just everywhere on both sides of the ball. Now, obviously, he's a guy that is a little older, 24, 25-ish, mid-20s, has been around the league, Clippers, and then he was, a force in the G League last year, played overseas. He's pretty much been everywhere as far as in his young career, coming from Florida State, Florida boy. So I pretty much do feel safe to say right now that he has a strong lead when it comes to some of, our summer league, players and what we've seen from them and a real chance of making the team. I said him and Travion Williams, the other big, were two guys to really keep your eyes on. Now, Travion Williams in that first game had 6.6 rebounds, 3 for 6 from the field. But some of his passes, man, so flashy. He was hitting Johan Begarome and then Sam Hauser on some just beautiful backdoor cuts. And it's like, man, you can see it. You can see the potential on the offensive end. The defensive end, he's got a lot of work to do. Speaking of Sam Hauser in that opening game, 2 for 12 from the field, 1 for 9 from 3, 7 points. It was a tough game from him. But the other big one would be Matt Ryan off the bench. 21 minutes. He had 15 points, 4 for 8 from the field, 4 for 8 for 3. Again, a disappointing, 78-88 loss, but it is what it is. Moving on to last night's game, a little get-back redemption in an exciting game against the Bucks. The Boston Celtics would win 111-109 on essentially a Matt Ryan, I don't even know what to call that shot. A tripping, falling, ankle spraining, 3-point off balance game. It was wild. But yeah, right after, Mfiondu Kabengele actually dunked on, forgive me, I don't know any of their players' names, but it was this guy right here, Sandro, whatever, I believe. He dunked on him, and then Sandro, I believe, got some get back. And then to put the Bucks up 1 or 2, and then you got Matt Ryan coming down to actually hit the game winner. So that was pretty exciting, especially when it comes to Summer League. But again, Mfiondu Kabengele right off the bat, guys, as you see, 15 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, 5 for 8 from the field, and again, 1 for 2 from the 3. Matt Ryan off the bench again, 23 points. He was 7 for 12 from the field and 6 for 11 from the 3. There was a gentleman in my comment section, forgive me the name, but shout out to him because he actually asked me, what did I think about Matt Ryan? And, because I was talking about Sam Hauser, and he was basically, saying that, do you think we could get the same out of Matt Ryan that we are getting out of Sam Hauser? And I mean, so far, when you look at what Matt Ryan has provided, especially off of the bench, one has to think he's got a real shot at, making this team. If not, I know J.D. Davison's already committed to one of the 2-way contracts, but Matt Ryan, who knows? If he keeps it up, I would say him and Kabengele have a real shot here. But some of the other players, Johan Begarom, I didn't mention him, but I believe in that first game he also had 13, somewhere in that ballpark. But regardless, 13 points, 6 rebounds. He had 2 assists. He did have 3 steals, 7 turnovers. And speaking of turnovers, my man J.D. Davison, 5 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, but he did have 5 fouls and 5 turnovers. So kind of a rough game 2 for him, especially when you look at how good, he looked in game 1 with just his explosiveness, his pass first mentality. Some of those lobs to Kabengele had me really thinking of like, wow, him and Rob Williams will light it up. But Trevion Williams, 4 points, 2 rebounds, he's 2 for 6 from the field. Again, you really do want to see more out of him. AJ Reeves has not actually gotten any time in these first 2 games, have been DNP coach's decisions. Kind of stinks. You'd like to see him actually get some run. Sam Hauser with a big bounce back game, though, in game 2. 12 points. He was 4 for 9 from the field. He was 3 for 7 from the 3. And again, Justin Jackson, actually, forget to mention him. He was actually just picked up before this game and came off the bench with 10 points. So another really strong performance overall. Like I said, keep your eye on Kabengele. Obviously, Sam Hauser's already there, but Kabengele and Matt Ryan are probably my 2 standouts so far through these first 2 games. Why I'm spending a lot of time on Kabengele, it's because it really goes back to our front court. And I'd like to transition and finish up the video speaking about that and just some of the remaining options when it comes to the Boston Celtics front court, our depth, rotation, targets. Now, when you start off the conversation, it is, who's your front court? Rob Williams, Al Horford. That's a hell of a way to start it off with a 1-2 punch like that. You don't need me to really tell you what they did. They were phenomenal together last year. Rob Williams, basically a double-double, 10 points, 10 rebounds, right up at the top of the league in blocks, second team All-NBA defensive-wise. I mean, his first year as a starter, and he was spectacular in that free safety role, rim protecting, lob to Rob on the offensive end, vertical threat. And the vertical spacing is second to none. 24 years old, one of the best passing bigs in the game. Is phenomenal. And Al Horford is a lot of that, but just the vet version. The 36 years old Al Horford, multiple-time All-Star. This is a guy that is with his second stint with the Boston Celtics, and he was a guy I think that averaged 10 and 7 throughout the regular season, but elevated that to damn near almost 13, 14 points and 9.5 rebounds in the playoffs. Another one of the better passing bigs in the game. He actually got his 3-point shooting up to like damn near 48% throughout the playoffs, which was a far cry to, what it was in the season, because he did kind of struggle, but he is a guy that can, stretch the floor. He was phenomenal on the defensive end and was, crucial to unlocking a lot of what we were able to do, especially with Rob in our switch heavy approach. And the fact that you could put him on the team's true center, and he could bang and hold his own against anyone. Meanwhile, you got Rob basically on their, whoever's standing in their corner, usually the shitty 3-point shooter, if you will, and that allows him to just run wild on the defensive end and just cause chaos, which, again, you don't need me to spend too much time on those two. They were incredible and as important as it gets to this team. And you got to feel really good about both of them, what they were able to provide last year and moving forward. But the problem is that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, after that incredible, home run Malcolm Brogdon trade, the only negative to it is that you were sending out Daniel Tice, who really is one of the better, number 3 bigs, if you will, because when you're front court rotation and you're getting to where your number 3 is a guy who was just your starter on an ECF run, the year before last, that's pretty badass, especially when he's a guy that's familiar with this team, has played with all of the starters and played at a high level and on some deep runs with them on some really good teams. So having him there in case something happened to unfortunate injury prone Rob Williams or, getting a little older, 36, turning 37 Al Horford. Remember when Rob got hurt at the end of the season, Daniel Tice was excellent, in that late stretch. And he even had that game in the playoffs where I think he scored like 11 points in 11 minutes or whatever it was. So losing him now kind of, has this glaring hole, because unless I'm overlooking, I believe the next guy is now Luke Cornett, who was signed to a new contract. But it's basically Luke Cornett. I know you've got, Grant and, Gallinari, and there's certain guys you could potentially use, to fill in minutes in the front court. But when you're talking about a true center and true bigs, Grant can't be there too long. Gallo, there's no way. So you're really looking at Luke Cornett. So again, I really feel like they have to address that. They have to bring in someone else just to provide depth. And I mentioned the 2 summer league guys in my in that missing pieces video, the Travion Williams and Kevin Galley, because the lack of a move thus far has kind of made me think like, well, shit, maybe Brad wants to give these guys a shot and see what they can do. And so far, like I said, through those 2 games, Kevin Jolly, definitely, he would not surprise me at 6'10", 250. In fact, both of these guys about 6'10", 250, and both provide a very unique skill set. Travion Williams, his passing and what he can do on the offensive end still gives him a real opportunity to make this team in some way. But, again, Mfidou and just being more of that athletic, traditional big or rebounding shit in the G League last year, he damn near averaged as many offensive rebounds as defense. So you got those 2 guys, but some of the other people I want to talk about around the league, you still have DeMarcus Cousins, who I mentioned in that last video, LaMarcus Aldridge, who I mentioned, and he's the guy I actually went into a little bit more depth about. I provided his stats from last year as a refresher. In 47 games, 22 minutes, he averaged damn near 13 points, 5.5 rebounds off the bench for the Nets. He will be 37 years old soon, 7-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA. He's a 6'11", 250-pound. And don't forget, just a few years ago when he was 34 with San Antonio, he averaged 19.7.5 rebounds. So with his connection to Ime Udoka, ties to San Antonio, I wouldn't be surprised if he's potentially someone they look to bring in. But I don't want to spend too much time on him. I went in a lot more detail. But some of the other 2 guys, DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie, he has been linked to Boston for a long time now. Last year with Denver, 9 points, 5.5 rebounds on 14 minutes. That's pretty damn solid. If a guy can come in and average, I think it was actually less than 14 minutes a game and basically give you 9 points, 5.5 boards. He's 6'10", 270. And what's crazy is he's only 31, man. It's like injuries suck because he's a 4-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA. But the last 2 seasons, he's been on 4 different teams: Denver, Milwaukee, the Clippers, Houston. But even if you look in the 17 games he spent with the Bucks, similar to Denver, 9 points, 6 rebounds in about 17 minutes. So he's a guy that, you could bring in, put him in that number 3, 4, somewhere in that, back into the rotation when it comes to front court, only if needed. And you bring him in 15 minutes, he's going to get you damn near 10 and 6. But it's the attitude. He's a vet. It's just, you know what you're getting, the grit behind, DeMarcus Cousins. And I wouldn't be against adding that toughness, if you will, that don't fuck with me attitude. Just that seems like something that, this team could actually, welcome. But to me, the other popular guy that's starting to circulate, shout out to Landon for this, it's Aron Baynes. And the more and more I look into it, the more and more I think a reunion really is on the horizon here. It would not surprise me if at any day, any moment, Aron Baynes is re-signed with the Boston Celtics and, back in green. And it's really actually kind of exciting. 35 years old, another 6'10", 260-pound bruiser. Absolute bruiser. Last played in the 2021 season with Toronto, 53 games, 18 and a half minutes. He averaged 6 points, 5 rebounds, and Boston fans will pretty much know that's basically what he did for us the years he was here, 17, 18, 18, 19 with Boston. He's a guy that's going to get you about 6 points, 6 boards. And like I said, just be that tough enforcer, bruiser, excellent, defender, a guy that started to work on his three-point game, who has played with this core. Let's not forget him and Al Horford. I remember, I think it was the second or third video I ever did was with Adam Taylor. And we were talking about the double big, Al and Rob. And we actually said, shit, yeah, it could work. Because don't forget, a few years ago, Aron Baynes and Al Horford actually ran it, and ran it very well. So if they could do it, imagine what Rob and Al could do, was the point. But I would not be against bringing Aron. I actually would be, thrilled to see him back, just because of what he means to the locker room. The fact that you already see the guys just seeing him working out and potentially making a comeback. Jaylen Brown liked, that his tweet. And just to remind, the 1920 season, so just 2 seasons ago in terms of when he actually played with Phoenix, 42 games, 22 minutes, he averaged 11 and a half points and 6 rebounds. So not bad, and like I said, we know how Brad likes to, bring back those old players. So Al, Baynes, Tice, all the damn front court guys, will make their way back to Boston. Out of those 3 so far, I really do. I'm leaning towards Baynes as the guy, if I was a gambler, to put my money on. A few TPE rumors. You've heard Derek Favors. You've heard Jakob Poeltl. I don't know how the hell you expect to get Jakob Poeltl, just because both of those guys are actually on expiring. They'll be free agents after this year, so they're rentals. They do fit into the TPE. Both of them make like right around the 9-10 million mark. Obviously, Jakob Poeltl's a home run. That's a starting level center, man. He's 7 foot, 250. He averages like 14 and 10. He's the real deal. I guarantee the Spurs fans of the world will tell you they would take him over Rob Williams, whereas obviously the Celtics fans would say they'd take Rob. But my point is, that's how good he is. I guarantee, their fan base wouldn't even want to get rid of him. But Derek Favors a little bit more interesting. 30, about to be 31, 6'9", 6'10", 265. Not an all-star, but he did have some good run with Utah in from 2014 to 2016, where he averaged about 16, 17 points, I think, 8 rebounds. So good rebounder, a vet with experience, and could provide depth. But again, neither one of those guys. I would be more so on just the bringing in Baynes, or Boogie or any of those guys, because especially with Jakob Poeltl, you would definitely have to give up some assets to bring him in. I don't know. I mean, they're not going to take seconds. They might actually want like a Grant Williams or an actual player in addition to pick. So Derek Favors, you could probably get him out of OKC for just some seconds or something like that. So, but neither one of those, well, let me not say that. Jakob Poeltl is extremely exciting. I just don't think it's realistic. But again, to me, it's more so see what you got with Mfiondu, Kabengele, and possibly, either Aron Baynes, LaMarcus Aldridge, any of those 3 free agents I just named. I think that if you bring in one of those 3, let's say you bring in Aron Baynes, then there you go, right? Now you're talking about Rob, Al Horford, Aron Baynes, and then you've got Cornette and Kabengele or whatnot battling for that 4 and 5. All of a sudden, that's a solid rotation. You know what I mean? Even if you don't take Baynes out, substitute one of those other guys in. I just think that I kind of like what that does as far as solidifying out our front court and really making us, we're close, guys. Like I said, wings and front court depth have been the 2 remaining needs for me. But somebody pointed out, and I forget which video. It might have been the same one, but about Brogdon potentially being able to fill some minutes at that 3 or back up as a wing for like Jalen or Jason. And they're absolutely right, because he's 6'5.5" or whatever it is, 220 plus. So he's not, he could definitely. It's going to be interesting, especially my man Derek White has seemed to get slid under the rug and forgotten and all this. So you've got some interesting, potential lineups that you could see Ime throw out, right? With a Brogdon, Smart, you got White, Jalen, Jason, all kinds of different combinations. But again, guys, 2 games through Summer League. We got 2 down, 2 more to go. I've seen some pretty good standouts so far and some good takeaways with Kevin Jelly. I've seen some things I like from J.D. Davison. Sam Hauser had a good night, but so far, Matt Ryan and Kevin Jelly have been my 2 guys. And then again, front court, very close. I think we just got to make maybe one small move and potentially continue to develop one of these Summer League guys. But any one of those guys I mentioned, Aron Baynes, Boogie Cousins, Marcus Aldridge, I'd bring any of those 3 on to breed the number 3 or 4, in our front court. And so far, a beautiful roster and rotation that Brad Stevens has built out for us moving forward. But let me know some of the guys that you're interested in. Forgive me, should I always seem to start talking about a free agent and then realizing right afterward that they've signed? So if any of these people have signed, forgive me, but let me know what you're thinking as far as Summer League standouts. Do you see anything I'm not seeing? And as far as some front court targets, is there anyone else besides the guys I mentioned? Somebody like last video, I think, mentioned Moses Brown. I don't know if he's still available, but Hassan Whiteside, is there still some guys? What's up with Dwight Howard? But again, let me know in the comments below some of the guys that you got your eyes on. But again, guys, thank you so much for your time. Jags to Riches, James Peters, have an excellent conclusion to your day. Take care, guys.